All right, Orange Vista Chemistry students, welcome back. Mr. Conklin here. We're going to go over some of the safety features that you will find in the laboratory. First things first, whenever we have a lab, you always must wear personal protective equipment, and that will be usually in the form of goggles and a lab apron. There are no exceptions, you must have these on. Also, in terms of personal protective equipment, it's a good idea not to wear baggy clothes or have long hair draping over you. If you're wearing baggy clothes, it's a good idea to probably change into something that's a little bit more form-fitting, because baggy clothes can easily get caught inside of a fire or get chemicals on them. Long hair that's shoulder length or longer, whether you're male or female, must be pulled back. Okay, there are no exceptions. Now that we have personal protective equipment out of the way, why don't we go ahead and talk about some of the safety features of the laboratory. First things first is we do use open flame. Sometimes people can catch on fire, all right? And as regrettable as that is, if somebody does catch on fire, you have to put them out with the fire blanket. The fire blanket is made out of a smothering material that will suffocate the flames and put the person out. You wrap this around the person and have them roll around in it until the flames are out. You can also add water to this if you would like to, if you have the means. Some of you might be wondering, well, there's a fire extinguisher. Yes, there is a fire extinguisher. We use fire extinguishers to put out flames that are not on people. There's a reason why in the game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas you could kill somebody with a fire extinguisher, because fire extinguishers displace oxygen, and we breathe oxygen. So if you squirt somebody with a fire extinguisher, which has CO2 inside, you're going to suffocate them as they're burning. Don't ever squirt somebody with a fire extinguisher. Only squirt objects that are on fire with the fire extinguisher. Next feature of the lab safety is going to be the fume hood. This is where we have perform experiments in which we use things that are very volatile, meaning they fume and or produces a smoke or a very intense flame that has to be contained. It has a sash that raises up and down with a certain limit. It has suction on the inside that pulls out noxious gas and fumes, and it also has a light inside as well. There is a cold water source and a gas source in there as well. And when we do fireworks, we typically do this experiment in the fume hood. Not typically, we always do. Moving on over here, the next safety feature of the laboratory is the shower as well as the eye wash station, okay? Now, though we will not be working with very huge volume of chemicals that you should douse yourself or accidentally douse yourself in them, if there is ever a situation where you douse yourself in chemicals, you have to remove all of the contaminated clothing, okay? You come over here, you pull down on this lever or this lever, and water will start raining down, and you have to basically take a shower in the middle of the lab, okay, and get all of the contaminants off you. Let's say you were not being responsible and you weren't wearing your safety goggles and you got chemicals in your eye. This is what the eye wash station is for. You will pull this down, remove the yellow covering here, and you will hold your eyes open or have a friend hold your eyes open for 15 minutes as you wash your eyes out. Ladies and gents, 15 minutes seems like a long time, but this is your vision we're talking about here. 15 minutes with the pain is a good trade-off for losing your vision for the rest of your life. Okay. Now, I'm not going to actually demonstrate any of this, because as you can see, there's only a little drain right here, and that drain isn't very concave, so it doesn't drain very well. Which means, if somebody pulls this, they're cleaning it up. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to go over the lab safety contract, and I'll be over here in this corner. Before anybody can participate in any laboratory experiments, you must have read and understand the lab safety contract. You must sign it as well as your parent must sign it. I'm going to go over the 13 to 14 basic rules of the lab. First things first, the laboratory is to be used for serious experiments. Please do not do any unauthorized experiments or things that could potentially get somebody hurt. This could get you kicked out of the lab for the rest of the year, and you'll be doing alternative assignments if you do unauthorized or unsafe experiments. Before every experiment, you must study the lab manual or the lab handout that we give you so that you're familiar with the procedures. Safety goggles and aprons must be worn at all times. We've gone over that already. If you have long hair, it must be pulled back. Long hair is considered shoulder length or longer, as well as please try avoid wearing those baggy clothes. Also, I forgot to mention earlier, you have to wear closed-toed shoes on lab days. You cannot wear sandals, sliders, or socks with sliders or anything along those lines. It has to be a closed-toed shoe. Please use all the safety equipment provided to you, which includes the shower, the eye wash station, the fire blanket, as well as the fire extinguisher, responsibly, okay? These are not things to be joked around with. Accidents do happen, okay? Accidents happen, and it's just the nature of life. If an accident happens in the form of something breaking or something spilling, if it gets spilled on you, the first thing you want to do is start rinsing it off in the sink and then have somebody report the accident or spill to a teacher. Okay? If something breaks, like glass, you are not allowed to clean up glass breaks on your own. It's okay if glass breaks if it was done accidentally. Just report it to your teacher and we'll take care of the break. It seems like a no-brainer, but there are people who would love to taste chemicals in this class or taste some of the food sources that we use. This environment is not a safe place to eat, so anything that we use in experiments are not safe to eat, even if we are using food items. For instance, we will be burning Cheetos as one of our experiments. The Cheetos are probably 1 to 2 years expired, and they're sitting on a shelf where we keep dehydrated fish bone. So you don't really want to be eating those type of things, okay? If there is a fire, it's a small fire, like something 1 inch or a centimeter or so on the desk, get a wet paper towel and smother it and report it to your teacher. If it is a big fire, report it to your teacher at once so that we can get a fire extinguisher out and put out the flame. If somebody is on fire, get the fire blanket and start getting them wet and smothering the flames. Handle chemicals carefully. Even though we are going to be using things in here that are not entirely hazardous, it's always a good idea to exercise caution, okay? Don't swing the beakers around and don't, jostle them around in ways that could spill or cause unsafe spills. Keep combustible materials away from open flames. What combustible means that can easily catch fire. So if you're lighting a Bunsen burner, you want to keep away things that can easily catch fire. For instance, papers, pencils, or anything along the lines of something that might have alcohol in it, so like perfume-soaked clothes and things like that. Another thing I should mention about perfumes, it's always a problem every year. Never spray perfume in the lab. There are people in here that are allergic to that, and perfumes contain a type of alcohol that is easily flammable. When heating a substance or a test tube, always point the open mouth of the test tube away from people, okay? The reason why is because sometimes things can get so hot that they pop out, and you do not want popping chemicals in people's faces, especially your own. Okay, when handling glassware, hot glass looks the same as cold glass, especially when we heat it on the hot plate though. Always a good idea to hover your hand over the potential heat source of the glass. If you feel heat radiating off of it, it is not safe to handle by hand, and you'll have to use either the oven mitts or the hot glove or the beaker tongs, okay? Basically, the moral of the story there is, don't assume the glass is cool, because hot glass looks the same as cold glass. Hover your hand over it, see if heat is radiating off of it. If you don't feel heat radiating off of it, it's probably safe to touch. If you do feel heat radiating off of it, get beaker tongs or a glove and proceed. Last one, or second to last one I should say. Place broken glass and solid substance in designated sharps containers. That's more for the teacher. If glass breaks, we will break it, we will pick it up and we will put it inside the sharps container for you. If there is a waste chemical bin for used chemicals after an experiment, then it's your responsibility to make sure that you put those things in there as well. And last but certainly not least, use common sense in the laboratory. Many of us, all of us I hope, were born with an innate sense of common sense, okay? Also, make sure that your lab station is clean and ready to go for the next period. That's all the safety features we have for now, ladies and gents. We will definitely review these should we ever come back to school and work on an actual experiment. Good luck, and we'll see you in class.